Welcome back to the No Name Nonsense podcast. We are going to talk about some more political stuff. I know people, a mixed bag on how people like when we talk and get into the politics, but we try to keep it as neutral as possible and just fun and entertaining. But we got to talk about the vice presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Vice President Pence. So it was very interesting. Wasn't as much of a shit show as the presidential debate. Like Pence still kind of suffered from some Trumpian debate where he kept trying to cut in or going over time and etc. But with that being said, I think it was closer to what a civil debate is, close as what we're probably going to get this whole election. So let's go ahead. Anybody want to jump into it and go ahead and start? And what you guys thought, saw, felt?
What you got, Mama Steve?
Sure, I'll start.
Go ahead.
I did like how it was more tame than the last presidential debate. And I actually watched it with my Canadian friend. We were doing our weekly video chat, and she watched it with me. And it was very calm. It was very professional. Although they did interrupt each other. I did like when Kamala stood up and she's like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm talking." Like the
I'm
motherly figure, like
speaking.
I'm
Yeah.
speaking, I'm speaking, which was hey, that's great. And then Pence was like, okay, but I guess was I was a little ticked off when she was trying to give like a history lesson, and she started with in 1867, and Pence just immediately interrupts her, and she just gave him this look like, "Don't interrupt me," and I was like, "Ooh, this is getting good."
Yeah.
Here comes the what we've been waiting for, the unrest of the debate. But I think it did go well. The fly on Pence's head was hilarious.
That was crazy.
It was. Although
Somebody said that was Pence's only black friend.
Oh,
Yeah, they got him there. Got him.
there were so many comments on Twitter and Facebook, and the tweets were just entertaining for the rest of the week for me. I could have just spent the rest of the week reading about the fly tweets, and I would have been set.
yeah, we saw that coming a mile away.
Oh gosh. And I will say the commentator, I wasn't really impressed with the commentator this time.
Well, when people, I've heard people say that, like even when Chris, whatever Wallace was the 1st one. Like, what do you guys expect out of a mediator and commentator? Like, he can't mute. They can't mute mics. They
No.
can't just be irreverent and tell people to shut up. Like, I guess I don't know. Like when people keep like, oh, well, Chris Wallace, he let blah blah, blah, and they be like, oh, and she let people like what? Like, it's not a point system with a winner or loser. She can't
Yeah.
be like, well, I'm docking you 10 points, Pence, because you keep talking.
No,
Like,
no, it wasn't. But it was like the way she did the questions was with Chris Wallace, and and this is how a debate can work. It's like you give a question, this person starts, and then this person goes next, and then there's an open discussion. She had different questions for each candidate. She's like, Kamala Harris, blah, here's your question. Okay, Mike Pence, here's your question, and this is your question. And it was like, no, 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 you ask the question, and then you let them both answer the same question. You don't tailor questions per candidate,
Well,
because
I
that's
think-
like saying,
Yeah.
now, Susie, do you like pink?
well, I
Great.
think the reason why
John,
they were doing that.
what is the
because-
difference between the
But
geometric
hold on,
ratio?
I think you're missing the point on that. The point why she made poignant questions because the questions that she made to each individual was questions about their administration or upcoming administration's response to certain events.
I think she should have asked a more generalized question, like what is the administrative's plan for the future, instead of it being tailored like per candidate. Because I feel that's like not fair to the other candidate if one candidate gets an easy question and then the other candidate gets a hard question, because we don't know if this commentator is biased. And I'll be honest, I don't even think each candidate knew what they were talking about most of the time. Because especially the part where they're like, what's going to happen if the president dies or if the president is too
Was
ill.
there a plan in place?
Yes.
That's what they were asking. Was a
They-
plan in place for if something happens?
They don't have a plan. They just rambled on like, that's a very excellent question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about trees. Trees are great for the it's like they just start talking about how trees are great for the environment, how much they love oranges and bananas, and how efficient they are in vitamin C. Like who okay, what does this have to do with, your plan in case the president becomes incapacitated?
I would say
I
this
mean, then where's the plan?
in the debate too. I think outside of the fly, because we can talk about that all day. I think two biggest things in the debate were the quote unquote headlines. One, which I don't think got enough headlines, so I'm gonna bring it up here, is Trump's. I'm sorry, well, I'm saying Trump, but Pence's on-air denial of systematic racism.
Yeah.
Like he literally, she asked him straight point blank that she think that it's a unconscious bias or bias in the policing, blah blah blah. And Pence point blank said no, there's no such thing as systematic racism, and went on to elaborate of why he thinks so. And the second thing I want to say, and I think this is something more Mama Steve could speak to, is I think a lot of people felt some kind of way with Kamala's quote unquote sassiness and smirking. When he would, Pence would be up there lying his ass off, and she would look at him, it would show the flash for her just looking at him like smirking, like, whatever, and then kind of how she was like, I'm speaking. I felt like it went over well on Black Twitter, because they were like, oh, yeah, gang, gang, that's my girl, blah, blah, shut that joke up. I think a lot of undecided white people that might not have went over well with. And what I was trying to explain to a lot of my white male friends were it's a certain amount of relatability to women who have been in seats of power and positions, and they've had men, especially white men, are more powerful than them in those situations and positions of power, and those white men don't let them fully express themselves, express their opinions, express their thoughts, but then also a certain degree of how Kamala responded and acted, why it resonated so much with a lot of women, is because they would love to be able to give that look to their boss. They would love to tell their boss, I'm speaking, and continue their statement in a meeting, but they cannot. They're forced to have to shut her down and be quiet because the powerful person in the room is speaking. And I was like, I feel like it played so well because a lot of those women and a lot of minority women have been in those seats where they've had to kind of silence themselves because the man is speaking.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I think it played well in that demographic, but didn't play well for the man hierarchy demographic because they're like, oh, she's just
Who
trying
does
to
she think she
upshow
is?
him, and
Yeah.
she's been. So I know I'm putting you on the spot here because we don't rehearse these. We just get the topics. We don't rehearse what we say. But like, I know you've experienced some conflicts, maybe possibly in your life, but also speak to that moment. What did you think when you saw how kind of sassy and forceful she was? Like, did you think it was good, positive, negative, or how did you perceive it?
I thought it was great, and I'll explain why. She's finally at a place where she can express herself. She's finally at a place where she doesn't have to be silent and just sit back while the the male prototype goes, "Oh, that's cute, honey," and she has to sit back and take that. Now she is the vice presidential candidate. And she is speaking on behalf of the presidential candidate in this debate. So she's going to stand up her game and be like, I'm on the top now. Or I'm close to the top as I could possibly get.
Exactly, yeah.
This is my this is my territory. You're in my arena. Game on. And I applaud her for that. She worked so hard and she went through so much to get to this moment. And a lot of women out there are wanting the same thing, not necessarily to be a vice presidential candidate, but to
Just in
have
the corporate world.
exactly to have a position of power. So we're still, the underdogs in regards to male versus female, gender equality. We're still fighting for. We're still considered at the bottom or as close to the bottom, wherever the bottom half.
Yeah.
And I've experienced myself in the workforce long time ago when I first started working my very first job. And the job after that. I was discriminated against in the workplace because I was a female. I didn't get the promotion that I worked hard for. I worked my butt off for months, long hours, putting blood, sweat, and tears, it felt like, into my work. Because I want to provide for my family. And then they give the position to a guy with less experience than me. Or they pay the guy 10 grand more in their salary than what I got paid. And I had more experience and I trained the guy.
Wow.
I'm just putting it out there. If you want to know why I'm all for feminism, this is exactly why, because I've been there. And I've been in that situation to where I'm not going to be like the stay-at-home mom, barefoot in the kitchen, waiting for my husband to come home. I'm going to go out there and make something of myself. And that's what I was taught to do, is, first and foremost, before I got married, I was taught that I had to be independent. Marriage comes after that. And that's the way I've always been. But I've been in two jobs to where I was discriminated against as a female, where I had to stand back and stay quiet. I couldn't say anything. And the times that I was nice about it and stood up for myself, I got that, oh, that's cute attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
So I applaud Kamala for standing up for herself, because now this is her time. Whether she gets to be vice president or not, she is now, at this moment, she is the candidate. She is the candidate, which means it's go time. It's time to battle. She's been quiet long enough. Now she's going to express what she needs to express. She's going to tell it like it is. And if you sit there on that stage and interrupt her, she's going to clap back.
Well, and I think that's interesting that you said, how where you've been in those seats and you got the oh, that's cute thing. I I felt predominantly in that debate that Mike Pence was swinging his little white dick around in that whole debate because he wasn't even respecting the moderator.
No, it
Now
wasn't.
we can have a debate if you think that's because it's just Mike Pence or it's because it was a woman. I tend to feel like the way he was disrespecting Kamala and them is because they were both women, and he don't respect no women unless it's his mommy, and it showed it smelled and had a huge aura and odor and aura of white privilege running through that whole debate. And when I say that, it was that, yeah, Pence didn't have to listen to the black woman. Pence didn't have to listen to the woman moderator. Pence could interrupt. Pence could not answer a question and go back to the previous question and use his time to answer that instead of moving on. Like, Pence basically put himself in positions where he was like, I'll be damned, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I probably never been told in my life that I couldn't do what I want to do. And I'll be damned if these people, tell me I can't do it. Of anybody.
Yeah.
Not these women. And again, that's just me spitballing, but that's what it felt like. It felt like how you keep interrupting someone when they speak after you've been warned. But you keep doing it. You keep going over your time, and even to the point, at some points when she's like, Vice President Pence, we can't, and he just keeps talking as if he doesn't even acknowledge she existed. And I know that's sort of a debating tactic, and I know Kamala eventually started getting on that route where she would say little things here and there and started kind of interjecting. But even Kamala's interjections and going over time, she literally was like, no, I need to finish this because of what he said. Please give me the time to finish this, etc. At one point, I think she told Pence he has 15 seconds, and that joker talked for a whole another 35, almost to a minute. And then Kamala, she's like, oh, you got 30 seconds. And as soon as at 30, she was hounding her. And Kamala was like, no, like, just let me finish this. It just smelled of just white male privilege.
It's the good old boy system.
Yeah.
It is the good old boy system, and that's how it is today. Not just in that scenario, but in the workplace.
Well, and I heard like somebody was like, well, they need to just do it where they can mute their mics and blah, blah, blah. But then I guess someone had told my wife that if they muted their mics, I guess it would be a censorship issue. Because in that way, if you have that ability, you can just mute his mic anytime, and they can claim that, oh, I said this, and they muted that from me, or changed the camera angle and muted me. So I guess in debates, like everybody's wondering, like, why can't you just mute him? Why can't you just mute him? I think that, from what I was told, that's the reason that they cannot mute the mics. I think that's something that's agreed to when they do the debate set up by both sides. So to answer people that think like, why don't you just start muting him and Trump and all these people? That's why, I guess it's something about censorship. They can't do that or shouldn't do it.
Speaking of censorship, did you know that in China they actually censored out the discussion about the coronavirus?
Yeah.
They put up the colored bars and they said no signal, please stand by.
Oh, and they did it for Pence especially.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They let Kamala speak on
Yeah.
it, but they did it for Pence because Pence and Trump are still blaming China.
Yeah, blaming China.
They don't care about what happened. They're going to
They
always
shut
just keep
'em off.
blaming China. And guys, like I'm gonna let people know this because people don't know this. Here's my nugget for the day. Every time they blame China for this virus and disease, and you agree, you are working in a thing called xenophobia, fear of the unknown or the other. As yes, the disease started in China. We all agree. Okay, great. How we handle the disease from that point on is nothing to do with China.
Nope.
It has everything to do with our response and how we handle those situations. So I need people to stop defending the president and the vice president when they try to blame everything on China. Know what that's like? That is no different than you're at your job and somebody messes up their work. and you go behind them and fix their work. After you fix it properly, it's done. You do not go, well, I didn't fix the work properly because he messed up. And if he didn't mess up, I wouldn't have to fix this work. So actually, it's his fault. And that's why I couldn't do what I did to do my job.
No, that ain't gonna
Every
fly.
boss would be like, then you don't need to be in this position
Yeah.
if you can't clean up someone else's messes because that's what this position entails.
Exactly.
You're fired. So we're sitting in a position where our president keeps saying, "Oh well, China did this. If China would have done this, if they would have been truthful, if they would have been." That's fine. He's right about all those things. But what the part he gets wrong on is the accountability that he has in those moments to where we are now, and still has a moment of accountability that he's still not taking, and he caught the damn thing. Well, do we have any closing statements on this VP debate? Shout out to Kamala too, being a sister up there doing her thing. Let me make sure that's not, misguided. We gotta support our women, especially our black women. And I know some of y'all are haters. Oh, she ain't all black. Shut up. So go ahead, any final words?
So, I mean, in y'all's opinion, who won or who lost the debate?
I think Pence won because of the black girl magic that I spoke about.
You think so?
I didn't wasn't offended by it, but I feel like more people, because you're trying to have these debates to get undecideds to come vote for you. I feel like that black girl magic might have turned some people off. That's the reason why.
I think Kamala did well. And I think with her, I don't think it matters who won or who lost, because I think what she wanted to do was, make her point, put the point across out there and show that she is a dominant figure and that she can do it if she's voted in. So I don't think anybody won, but I think with Kamala it doesn't matter. She got out there, she said what she needed to say, and that's all that matters to her. And I guess to me, with Kamala and Biden compared to Pence and Trump, I think with them, their final outcome is, okay, it doesn't matter who won or lost the debate. We're going to see what happens on election night.
Right.
But with Trump and Pence, it's like, okay, we have to make sure that we dominate everything. We have to make sure we get this data in and that data in. We got to check all this stuff. So they're doing the analytics, where Biden and, Harris are just, they're like, okay, let's just see what happens. We're just going to put ourselves out there, and then we'll see what happens on election night.
Hey.
They're not going to worry about it.
Who did you have winning?
I actually think Kamala won, by a slight margin. Based on, the fact that, they both didn't answer a lot of the questions, directly, but, I just really felt like she got more of a point across, in a very presidential manner, professional presidential manner. And, the fly confirmed bullshit. I mean, when he sat on the man's head for 10 minutes, that was confirmation. That was all the confirmation I needed.
They sit on dead bodies and shit. That's all.
My goodness.
Well, thank you guys for listening to the No Name Nonsense podcast. We will have our playlist up on Spotify, DJ Tunes, and Corny J. Please check out more stuff there. Some good music going in between all of this. We're coming back. If the order of this ends up being correct, we're coming back with a real fire one on the next one. So you guys stay tuned.